Hard to believe, but we are past the halfway point in the high school baseball season here in South Florida. Kind of going to zone in more on Broward today. Obviously, that's kind of where I'm based. Man on Second does cover all of South Florida, but real intense in Broward County because it's close by as we grow this channel. And as we reach the halfway point, we're going to kind of dive into who is the best team right now down here. And I have some thoughts on that, and we'll jump into that in a minute here on the Curtain Call podcast here on the Man on Second YouTube channel. If you see, I got my new Man on Second hat. I got a hat now. Maybe I should sell these things. Anyone want them? I don't know, hopefully. Man on Second is growing rapidly. More than 1.1 million views already in the month of March. We are crushing it. Thanks to all the support. Thanks to all of you for your interest. Again, please like and subscribe to all the fun stuff. These videos also have a hype button that YouTube has put out there. Please hit that hype HYPE button because that helps grow channels such as this as we're trying to, compete with the big people. We are on, a one-man show, and I like it that way because I feel I can dominate as a party of one. But here we are. Let's kind of dive into as we are approaching now. We're into the second half, and really only a couple of weeks before we really get into district play as the season's going to wind down. Regular season, that is, and there's a long playoff structure, so we'll have you covered on that. But if we look at just Broward County, who is the best team in the county? I will say a year ago, Broward County was 3-0 in state title games, with Stoneman Douglas winning their fifth straight over in 7A. 6A, we had St. Thomas Aquinas winning for the first time in a while. And then in 4A, American Heritage, after falling in the championship game the year before and winning it the year before that, getting back on top and bringing home the big trophy. But now this year, I will say, I don't think we have a lock. I don't think we have a lock to go to Fort Myers. Broward County conceivably could be shut out of going to Fort Myers. But, there's still some teams that are, getting better and showing some signs. And I got to say right now, you got to give a hat tip and probably have to say, based on performance on the field, St. Thomas Aquinas is the best team in Broward County. You got to give the Raiders credit where credit's due. They are 14-3. They're riding a 6-game winning streak. A week ago. Now, keep in mind, it's spring break the last week, and for some teams, some schools this upcoming week, they went 3-0. I saw the Raiders beat Archbishop McCarthy 2-1 last week. Then they went up to North Broward Prep and beat them, a great team, 3-1, and then capped it off with a 12-2 win over Calvary Christian Academy. And when you look at that, when you look at that in terms of all of their performance against Broward County, they've beaten Cardinal Gibbons, they've beaten Chaminade Madonna, they've beaten West Broward, they beat Stoneman Douglas, they've beaten American Heritage, they've beaten Pinecrest, they've beaten McCarthy, and as just noted, North Broward Prep. So it's kind of hard not to say the Raiders, based on performance on the field, are the best team, 14-3, and really they're only a couple of runs or pitches or however you want to break it down from being undefeated. So they have an excellent shot in 6A to get back in and go all the way. A year ago, they were a juggernaut with a explosive kind of an offense for the ages. They hit a ton of homers. Lost a good number of players from that team, but really have picked it up. They're pitching at a very high level, even though they don't technically have that true ace, D1 starter, potential draft pick that some other schools down here have. But they're getting a lot done. And one of the reasons they're doing so well, and I got a video here, one of my favorite players in the county, Nico Sabatino. Nico knows I'm a big fan of his. He had been out for a little bit and returned. I think he had like an ankle or lower leg injury. He hits a home run against McCarthy in the first inning and got that off to a 1-0 lead. You can see Nico, great swing. Always been a big fan of him. Not so much, when I think of Nico, he could hit at the top of the order. Here now he's hitting the middle of the order because he's kind of a on base guy, but you can see he's got God, he got under that. You see that left. Nice little bat flip, Nico. Good job, buddy. Hitting 406 on the season, his third home run of the year. A clutch factor, too, and great defensively in center. Left-handed glove as well as a left-handed bat. Big fan of Nico. Appalachian State's going to get a good one when he goes there. But I always really liked Nico's swing. I always thought, he was a really, really talented player, can do a lot, to beat you. So happy for Nico to see he's performing right away. And what we're liking, what we're seeing from St. Thomas is they really have bonded. They have a team philosophy. They're not a collection of individuals. They kind of work together. Their younger players are stepping up, and they're pitching. That day when I saw them against Archbishop McCarthy, and they're a really improved team too. I'm very happy for McCarthy. Very young, but they're doing a lot of things well. And Brady Golan. Really good job. Left-hander. First time I saw Brady, he's a junior. He's off to a 3-1 start with a 2.94 ERA, 16 and 2/3 innings, 19 strikeouts. I think he pitched 6 innings, gave up just 1 run. It was a home run to Adrian Alfonso of McCarthy. And but that was it. And the runs were early. It was like Nico's homer in the first. I think they scored in the second on a wild pitch. Gave up a homer in the bottom of the second, I think it was. And then it was pitching all the way. That was one of your classic hour and 45-minute type games, which we always welcome because not every game is played as crispy as that. So, again, great job by St. Thomas. They're getting my, mid-season-ish award for best team in Broward. Brady Bucksbaum, first baseman, third baseman, South Florida, recruit there, hitting 367. Mauricio Clement and Hunter Mercer, 2 players have really kind of jumped onto the scene in that lineup this year. 348 batting average, 347 for Clement, 347 for Mercer. Again, doing a great job. The pitching, Julian Diaz, 3-0, 3.29 ERA. And Joe Hendren, I saw Joe pitch. He's got 19 1/3 innings, 20 strikeouts. Again, this is a deep roster, still a fairly, younger type team with guys getting experience, and they've really kind of stepped up. And they're, again, this is a team that's battle tested and has really kind of risen to the top here in our fine county of Broward County. And they're doing a great job. So, again, I'm not going to do a ranking or whatever because I do think that Stoneman Douglas also may have our best chance of getting to Fort Myers. So, the Eagles, until you win 5 in a row, you're coached by Tom Fitzgerald, and that coaching staff is immaculate. They're so prepared. They're getting better. They're 14-4, and this is what Stoneman Douglas. What will interesting to see as they move forward, because they just spent their spring break out in Las Vegas at the Bishop Gorman National Invitation Tournament. Really good event, bringing in powerhouse teams from California. We had a few teams from Florida there too. I think Columbus was definitely there, but Berkeley Prep was there. Bishop Verot was there, and one reason why this is those scouting services, they want to see the Gio Rojases. So they bring out Douglas out there, bring in national, I'm sure they had a ton of scouts out there as well. Obviously, they're wanting to see Gio Rojas, and Gio, he faced Bishop Verot, which was interesting because that's a South Florida, that's a Florida school from Fort Myers, a team that went to the 3A state semis. They got beaten by, I believe, Miami Springs, and Springs on their way to win it last year. Really, a good team capable of winning it all. 3A. Douglas took care of business that day, 6-2. Gio does what Gio does. This is why Gio Rojas will be most likely a top 10 overall pick. He goes 6 innings, no runs, and where are you, Gio? 14 strikeouts. That's all he does against Bishop Verot, a state power, and Gio just does Gio things. He obviously performing, knowing that people want to see him. But overall, really good week for Douglas because they played 4 games, which is really tough in 5 days, or might have been 4 straight days even playing. Beat Centennial, a school out of Vegas, 10-5. beat Santa Margarita out of California 7-6. Like I said, they beat Bishop Rose 6-2. Gio doing his thing. When it says no runs, I have to double check. It might have been no earned runs. So I don't know if they gave up 2 runs in the 7th. That's irrelevant. The fact is that Douglas went out there, took care of business. But then they faced Berkeley Prep out of the Tampa area and lost 12-2. So they got run ruled by Berkeley Prep. Not the way you want to finish up in the tournament, but it's kind of taxing on a pitching staff to play 4 games in that period of time. But why I think Fitz probably isn't going to sweat that one too much is as we're getting toward district and then regional play, teams will have to learn to play back-to-back, potentially back-to-back-to-back, because in the regionals, they're 2 out of 3. I think this year they revised that maybe the first round will be a single elimination, but after that will be 2 out of 3, which will at least be the semifinals and finals. So they did it a year ago, Douglas. They went up to the Tampa area and played Jesuit, and I forget, someone else, a couple of other teams, but it prepared Douglas to go on the road, play back-to-back-to-back. Then obviously when you get to Fort Myers, if you're fortunate enough, only one classification gets a day off. So pretty much everybody between semifinals and finals, single elimination in state. So you're going to have to play one day and the next. So good, really good test, especially when you have to get on an airplane and go past and play in different time zones. So great job by Stoneman Douglas to go out there and win 3 of 4 and get that experience of back-to-back-to-back-to-back. All the players, not named Gio Rojas, some of these younger guys who haven't pitched in these state championship atmosphere, got a taste of really high leverage tournament type play. So I'm looking for Douglas to, if I have St. Thomas 1, I got Douglas maybe 1B, if not, 2. But I don't like to hedge. I like to be one of those 1, 2. They're big boys, they can be motivated if they feel slighted anyway. So Douglas 14-4 overall. Great job by the Eagles to go out there, take care of business. West Broward had a really interesting week too with this week off, and much like I just kind of laid out with what Douglas did. West Broward went up to the Jacksonville area, and they played 3 really tough teams against state championship caliber competition. They take care of business against Bishop Snyder out of Jacksonville, win 2-0. Ivan Sabater just stud that day. 5 innings pitched, 6 strikeouts. AJ Cruz, the really good shortstop, 2 hits. Before that game, according to Max Preps, Bishop Snyder, number 2 overall team in the state of Florida. So huge win. But then, state competition in Jacksonville has in that area, St. John's Country Day. They won state or got to the state semis or finals a year or 2 ago, or maybe 2 straight years. And Trinity Christian Academy out of Jacksonville. I believe they're coached by, remember Daniel Murphy, the former big leaguer? His brother, I think, is the coach of that team. They're a stud nationally type ranked team. West Broward, after beating Bishop Frisaro, came up on the short end against St. John Country Day, 8-0, and then they lost, I think, 7-5. Can't even read my notes. I'm sorry, folks. Sometimes I'm getting old. I'm not going to lie, but they didn't beat those 2 teams. No shame in that. I'm sure Howard Stein played his college ball at Jacksonville University, so he has a lot of ties up there. And he went up there and took care of business. Another team that's playing really well this year, I want to kind of get to North Broward Prep, having a really good year. I wish I could have seen them a little bit more. They don't come down to the areas I could see. They almost play like a Palm Beach schedule. But they are playing well in 2 and 3A, excuse me. So they are a team that could potentially get in the way of like a Bishop Frisaro. 13-4 overall for the Eagles. And then this week they took care of MacArthur 9-0. They came up on a 3-1 loss to St. Thomas Aquinas in that game, high leverage game. So it's like with North Broward Prep 13, like I said, 13-4 overall. Let's see who pitched that game. Zach Tavares. and Jack Rostock. They pitch for North Broward Prep against a really good St. Thomas lineup. So again, Rostock went 5 2/3 innings, gave up 2 runs, both earned, and Zachary Tavares, he gave up 1 unearned run. Rostock 9 strikeouts, no walks against St. Thomas Aquinas. Zachary Tavares 2 walks in that game against the Eagles. So we'll see how North Broward Prep does moving forward, but clearly one of the elite teams in Broward County. Chaminade Madonna, we'll talk about them. 10-6. They went up central part of the state, played some really tough competition. Haggerty, went up to Oviedo. Lost to Haggerty out of Oviedo, 5-1. That's the school that produced Riley Green, obviously in the big leagues, among others. Great school, great program. So even though they came out in the losing end, getting that competition, they beat East Hamilton 13-0. That's a school out of Tennessee, and then they lost 4-3 to the First Academy, which the First Academy is getting its taste against a lot of South Florida schools. I believe they're going to be playing American Heritage at the end of this upcoming week. I'll probably head up to see that one. Then Archbishop McCarthy, they're 8-7 now. 5A, they lost, like I said, to St. Thomas. Then they beat JC Bermuda as Doral 10-2. I like the way the Mavericks are playing. That's a team that has the veterans in Miguel Delgado, and a guy like that, and Robert Kearns, and a lot of younger guys. Nestor Herrera's having a really fine year. Derek Winchester's looking first baseman pitcher. Garrett Duffy threw really well, I thought, against St. Thomas. Came out on the losing end, but Garrett, he's a little snake bitten because he threw really well against Mater Academy Charter a couple of weeks ago. Again, one of the top teams in the state, defending 5A champs, came out in the losing end, but doing really well. So good job by the Mavericks. We'll see how they keep going. In 5A, they're going to run into eventually Mater Academy. So we'll see how they do. And then in 2A, Chaminade Madonna, like I said, getting a taste of that. And that kind of from the Broward teams, kind of the best of the best. We'll talk about some of the Miami-Dade schools here on the podcast today, because obviously they mean a lot to me. They are supporters of the channel, and I appreciate all their support as well on Miami-Dade. Columbus went out to that Bishop Gorman Invitational. They're 11-3 now. They beat Middleton 8-0, and then they ran into the buzzsaw that is now Berkeley Prep, which I imagine they lost 9-4 to Berkeley Prep. Imagine Berkeley Prep now has moved up in 3A as a serious contender to win it all. But again, Columbus, much like anyone that's going to jump up in competition during spring break and play in these really high profile, those are really primers for the playoffs coming up. I like when teams do that. I like when the best is playing their best, and really good job. Doral Academy, 15-2. Now they kind of ran a couple of buzzsaws here in Broward when they came and lost to Pembroke Pines Charter. Big upset, maybe the biggest upset of the season when you start looking at these overall standings. Obviously, you got to show up every night. Lost 9-1 that game, and then they followed it up, lost 5-1 at home to Stoneman Douglas. But last week they bounced back with 3 wins. So I got to see the Firebirds and Ralph Suarez, my buddy, back on track again, 15-2. They will be in a tournament on Monday. There's a little, something I think going on in Miami. Archbishop McCarthy will be down there facing Doral. So good matchup for McCarthy to face a team of the caliber of the Doral Firebirds. So that should be fun. Mater Academy Charter, obviously among the elites in 5A, 13-3 overall. They beat Northside Christian 2-1. And then they lost 3-2 to Westminster Christian. Don't count out Westminster Christian. The Warriors are really good. And then they beat St. Brennan 4-0. So that's what's going on there. American Heritage. I saw them a couple of times. They faced that. They faced who did they face? They faced that team out of St. Petersburg. Let me call them up here. I thought I wrote them down, but didn't. That was the team that out of St. Petersburg. Heritage was winning that game 2-1 going into the top of the seventh and gave up 4 runs, including a home run that swung the game. Northside Christian at St. Pete, they lost. Heritage lost 5-2 in that game. Frustrating loss for Heritage. Mark Asensio had 2 hits. Mason McGeehan threw really well. He threw 5 innings, gave 1 run, 5 strikeouts, and again, the other team that they had a kid named Cox who had a 2-run homer, lefty bat, hit a 2-run homer to make it 3-2, and they added a couple of add-on runs there. And then probably the most encouraging thing for the week for American Heritage for the Patriots was on Friday they faced Schoolhouse Prep, which good team. That's a good team out of Miami. Beat them 4-0. But the big news was Brady Snow, one of the best pitchers in the state, a potential draft pick. He'd been out with a little bit of an issue, not arm. He was like something torso-ish or side or oblique or something. But he pitched. He opened that game. He pitched the first inning. I thought he looked really good. And he'll face. It looks like he'll pitch again this upcoming week. I don't know exactly when. And so Brady Snow came in, did a great job. Then Gabe Rosenfeld, because they only were going to give Brady 1 inning because they don't want to push him. He'd missed several weeks. So Gabe Rosenfeld, he comes in left-hander, a senior with it was 92, 93, maybe 94 even. He came in and Gabe dealt with a lot of injuries in the past, but really stepped up with 4 shutout innings, seemingly getting better every time out. And even though Heritage right now is 7-8, they really are going to need to finish strong. And if they want to get back, to put themselves in a position to go to Fort Myers, they're going to have to get hot right now. And it's going to be around the pitching because they're offense. They're not an explosive type offense. So they're going to have to scratch out runs and play good defense and pitch. And they do have the arms, Snow being back, but even you got to be careful with Brady. Here's an elite arm. You don't want to mess anything up there. So big opportunity for Gabe Rosenfeld, who's uncommitted, who's looking to open eyes. So big opportunity for Mason McGeehan and some others. With those 3, they're on their way to, fielding a really competitive team for the playoff run. And we'll kind of wrap it up there. Again, this has been, we're getting the crunch time, and this is going to be the time to see what people have. It's going to be the time for opportunity, whether you're young. If you start a year young, you're not young anymore because a lot of you getting close to over 15, 16, getting close to 20 games. So the way it works, you got to play, you got to take advantage of your opportunities, you got to produce because it's getting close to the time where 1 loss could be the end of your season. So should be fun as we get it rolling. But again, as we roll out of here, please like and subscribe to the channel. Like the new hat. We'll be rocking. I'll be wearing the hat out to the field. So I'll probably get some comments there. So it's good to see how this thing goes. But again, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the support in the channel. Please like, subscribe, and hype these videos. And with that, Man on Seconds, Joe Frisaro, we will see every one of you in the next video.